Hello, good morning to you all. Welcome to Sunrise. It is this morning. I am Chamberlain Oso.
Good morning. I'm Neota Igwe.
Good morning from Lagos. I am Bukola Koka.
Just a quick reminder, it's September 5. It's a Tuesday morning. Welcome to the program. I'm Ayo Makinde.
Okay, quick reminder too. Well, the president and his team have left the country at the moment. So he's departed Abuja to attend the G20 Leaders Summit in New Delhi, India, on the special invitation of the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Now, he took off, as expected, from the presidential wing of the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport at about midnight. You understand he had also met with security chiefs before this particular trip, and he went with a lot of business heads, so that we'll just see how all of those things play out eventually.
The president had a very busy day yesterday.
Yeah.
Expectedly, one would expect. The meetings he had were very crucial meetings. I'm sure one of the instructions would have given to the security chiefs is, this matter of insecurity, I want it sorted out before I get back. And you know, from India, he's going on to the UN General Assembly meeting. Talking about meetings, Chamberlain. So yesterday, the civil society organizations met with INEC.
Yeah.
Or did they meet with INEC? Or they had a meeting basically about the elections that are coming up in Imo, Bayelsa, and Kogi. And I heard one of the demands is upload the results. I'm sure I will jump on this one, but my question is, I'm not. Do you know if the results from the last elections have all been uploaded yet?
Well, since the matter went to court, I'm sure that if they are asked to maintain status quo, who knows? But I guess all our attention has now shifted to tomorrow, and so perhaps what consequence will it be if they had gone ahead and uploaded?
But you know, I was having a conversation with someone yesterday, and he was describing in Kaduna how elections were done, local government elections were done there twice. Electronic voting. So you come in there, you get to the machine, you tap on it, the whatever party you want to vote for sort of like is enlarged, and you do your vote, and it prints out a printout for you saying that you voted. And then later, when they are done with everybody voting, they come in there, open up the machine and bring out that printout for every person that voted and collate it in line with the votes that were as the machine had recorded and all. And I thought, if that can be done in one state, I mean, who says it cannot be tried in other states, especially when the elections are staggered? Maybe that would help a great deal to reduce some of the back and forth. I was cheated, I wasn't cheated, and all of that. But I think it's about time we begin to look into our election processes. A lot of people have talked about the fact that the major challenge with Nigeria's democracy is the fact that the leadership selection process, from the primaries to the actual elections, the processes that lead up to the actual elections are flawed. So there's no way, these are the arguments in some quarters, there's no way that the elections themselves will not be flawed. So if we can get back again and we need to look at our process. And those of us that seem to understand what the processes ought to be should not be sitting on the sideline. I'm not saying get in and contest. I'm saying probably looking to manage the election process to see how things can get better. The truth is, Nigeria, our nation, needs every one of us to get in and begin to put in whatever we can add, whatever we can put in to ensure our processes get right. Because in mathematics, they'll say, show you're working. You don't do wuru-wuru to the answer.
Also, what from the answer?
Okay. Well, I don't know, but I think it's about time we begin to really, really look at this thing and see where we go from.
Yeah, right. And the thing about this Bayelsa, Kogi, and Imo elections is that, you know, as it is, or probably it should be with every election, INEC is always on trial. Every election. Doesn't matter how the last elections they conducted is. Any major election, the integrity is always at stake, because we all want, okay, well, most people let me just be correct, want to see improved elections, transparency in the elections to ensure that, because, you know, that is at the root of a lot of things. If people know, political office holders know that, look, I got in here because the people voted me. And the same people who voted me can vote me out if I do not perform. They will fold their sleeves, I dare say, I like to believe, and then hunker down and do what they have to do and make sure things are done right. Because if it's the other way around, you find that those people, if they don't sit tight, they feel they don't owe the people anything, they could run you out of the street at any point in time, they could conduct themselves in any manner and think that, after all, we're the ones sitting down here, they lord it over you. So getting our, as we always call it, leadership recruitment process right, we cannot say that enough. It's just very, very important. So that when everybody sees that, yeah, the process, the best people emerged, and it's a fair game, a lot of those agitations that happen here and there will be doused. You see things just flow naturally.
But, you know, Chamberlain, that bit about where them running you off the road, sometimes I think it's, some of us actually give them room to do that, because if from the moment they came to you to say, I want you, this is what I want to come out and do for you, and you put out a demand to them, okay, do this for me before I can vote for you, what you're doing is that you've just sold your vote without knowing that you sold, without agreeing that you sold your vote. Well, and that person, to him, is an investment. To him or her, it's an investment. And so when they get into office, they are seeking to recoup what they invested in you. And so at that point in time, you can't hold them accountable. You've sold them a property, and they bought it.
Yes, I mean,
sometimes for pittance.
That can also happen. But society evolves, and we just incrementally we take those baby steps to ensure that we get it right. That is why every cycle, the National Assembly, I mean, Nigerians put pressure on them, amend the laws, make it the law better, even though they always try to circumvent it in any way whatsoever. And that's why the CSOs are asking. We want to see transparency. In fact, they're asking, upload those results. Let us just see them as they come in. It makes it a lot easier. People can have a lot more trust in the process. They can really see, I won, I lost fairly, I won fairly. And so nobody will feel aggrieved if it is a lot more transparent and everybody can see that. And that is why all of those consciousness about people asking questions and putting leaders on their toes is very crucial. It's very important. If you can do that almost every year, every time, it doesn't matter who is in any office, either the presidents, the governors, the councillors, the National Assembly members, we all have to ensure that all the time we put them on their toes and ensure that, look, they do what they're elected to do. Because we always say here, none of them got into government with their pocket money. They are all there with the resources of the country to ensure that things are done right. So nobody should feel, in fact, they feel whichever way, that's up to them. But the people have got to ask those questions because those resources belong to we, the people. Nice.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed, Chamberlain and Nyota, you guys hit the nail on the head. You know, what more can we add? But to reiterate that the leadership recruitment process really is at the heart of the matter. And perhaps, you know, the CSOs are speaking from the point of view of once bitten, you know, 200 times shy. We can't forget in a hurry, you know, the tone, the pattern, and the fallout of the February and March 2023 presidential and governorship election, when Nigerians, you know, pretty much went, you know, all out to that process with an attitude of, okay, we must get it right this time. If we do not get it right this time, that's going to cost us another 4 years. And, you know, they stayed with the process. We can't forget in a hurry how a lot of Nigerians use the tool of the social media to be diligent along with INEC to see that their results were uploaded. And, you know, it was more like a relationship between INEC and the people where one was heartbroken, like a jilted lover. You know, so perhaps that's why CSOs are going all out now to say that, look, INEC, you must do your own part this time around for Bayelsa, for Kogi, for Imo governorship elections. And, these states, just as keenly contested as the presidential and governorship elections were keenly contested, for a number of reasons. The incumbents want to retain power in some of those states, and when you go to another in the North Central, the outgoing governor wants to, ensure that his party, succeeds. So, but more importantly, Nigerians also want to ensure that their votes count in these states. And if we're talking about the leadership recruitment process, we also must look at the other aspect of the leadership recruitment process. Who are those recruiting? Who are those, employing the leaders, to serve them? They are the people. They must also take responsibility for that process. Poverty should not be an excuse for them to sell their votes. They must also get that aspect right. They must be able to take responsibility for that process such that they avoid as much as possible any form of remote and immediate inducement, because if you've done that, you have pretty much sold your votes, and whatever comes at the end of from the beginning of the inauguration and the end of the 4 years, whatever comes to you, you take responsibility for it. So that aspect must also be gotten right. And we've talked time and again, about how elections are a multi-stakeholder engagement. So the other agencies as well that are involved in the process must also be diligent to do their part. The police, the other, in paramilitary agencies that are involved must also ensure that they do their part. The leadership of the police under the former Inspector General had announced that they arrested a number of, perpetrators of malpractices during the election. How much of prosecution have we seen following that announcement? These are some of the issues that we cannot talk enough about when we talk about the leadership recruitment process. Ayo.
Chamberlain began by saying that anytime we have elections, the INEC is on trial. It's not just INEC that's on trial, Chamberlain. Our institution or institutions are the ones that are on trial. And it's literally saying we want to see if this structure will hold. Has it been holding? That's one. Now, the CSOs called and said, look, let's have the results of these elections, virtual. The legality and the morality, again, that argument comes to play. What does the law say that INEC should do? Can we even prioritize that one first? I mean, you've just referenced what happened in February and March, and a good number of people would also say, okay, because that's one of the challenges that a number of people have. What does the law ask INEC to do? Chamberlain is always asking, about the rule of law in our election process. What does the law say? And then INEC makes a promise. What are the promises? Are those promises backed by law? Okay, so I promise I'm going to give you a phone, then I'm unable to give you a phone. Is it against the law? Those arguments are also there. But the important part of it is INEC making an effort to ensure that people trust the process all over again. That is the test. That is the institutional challenge, and that is what INEC has to pay, its attention to. Bukola, you were talking about, the electorate and everything. It's what the chicken and the hunter, analogy. The chicken is learning to fly without perching. That's the, INEC. And of course, the hunter, the politician, is also looking to circumvent any process in whichever way, manner, shape, or form. So again, it comes back to the institution. And who are the ones purveying the institution? They are Nigerians. I mean, whether we like it or not, there is no better way to say it. They are Nigerians. INEC officials are Nigerians. They don't vote. They can't vote. I don't know, when was the last time you voted? Anyway, don't answer that question. Some people they make sacrifices that they can't, remonstrate their duties in the name of one thing or the other. So it is our institutions on trial, and we are the ones that will make those institutions stand or for? It comes back to the issue of trust. Do we trust the institution to hold? That's a question for us to answer. Chamberlain.
Yeah, well, I thought I heard you say chicken learning to fly. I thought chicken don't fly too far. It might land in the pot of soup. Somebody's pot of soup.
Chamberlain, the line where there is learning, chickens can still learn to fly.
Okay. All right, let's start with Vanguard newspaper today as we take you through some of the dailies here this morning. NLC shuns meeting with FG, starts 2-day warning strike. So, it's supposed to begin today, so you'll see the nature of all of those. Accuses Lalong of industrial dictatorship, blackmail. Strike will worsen plight of Nigerians, FG. Says, we waited on NLC for negotiation, all to no avail. Adds, no formal communication from Labour on strike. Baptist Convention warns NLC against hijack by hoodlums, asks FG to hasten palliatives. Rethink your stance on warning strike, 100 CSOs tell Labour. Oh, so what's happening? Is it cracking the wall now? No, but this is the big lead on the front page of Vanguard newspaper today.
And then we head out to the Leadership newspaper, and obviously they have that same story as well. Hardship, Labour shuns FG, begins warning strike over delayed palliatives. Okay, Vanguard didn't say the reason, but it looks like Leadership is still putting a bit of the reasons there. Okay. Delayed palliatives is on page 4, but let's see what the writers are saying. Aviation workers pull out as unions vow to shut banks. So if you need to withdraw some money, please go to the banks quickly, because it looks like the next 2 days. Address root causes of their grievances. Falana tells FG. Reps postpone job racketeering probe over strike. And then you see that picture there. Interesting times around the country. The Lagos Blue Rail, I think. And the chief train driver is there. That's the governor of Lagos State himself.
Can you take Ayo and Buki to work?
Well, Ayo...
Can they join in on time and not be late?
They can, yeah, but you know...
But we're not there yet.
No, the rail, the direction of the rail is not in that axis. But hopefully soon. Maybe that will be the red, I don't know what I would call that, orange or yellow or
whatever
pink.
Color.
Whatever color, but just get Aya and Buki to work in time. Okay. And then to see this other one, above the nameplate, you have this one, why Nigeria's refineries will never work. That's coming from former President Obasanjo. And on page 4, beside that one, blame Buhari for current economic crisis, not Tinubu, coming from former CBN Governor Sanusi. Interesting reads here, if you ask me. First time in 10 months, oil price rises to $89 per barrel. Does that speak well or hope for Nigeria? But that's it from Leadership newspaper.
And Daily Trust is what I have next for you this morning, and it shows a different path from Leadership. This time around, it's looking at, that much anticipated ruling slated for tomorrow. Parties optimistic as Tribunal rules on Atiku Obi's petitions tomorrow, and there are a host of riders here. Judgement will affirm Tinubu's mandate as the APC. We expect justice, nothing else. PDP candidate. We're confident of winning, as ascribed to the Labour Party. And the last of the riders says, ballot, not judiciary, will make pronouncement.
That's very interesting angle
code. That's one of the civil society organizations, I believe.
Yeah, that's a very interesting angle to look at that story. It's not the judiciary that is going to be making the pronouncement.
It's the ballot.
It's the ballot.
But it's before the judiciary. The decision to make it's before the judiciary.
They're not going to whip it up. That's what he's saying. They're going to focus on the ballot. It's going to be evidences based on the ballot.
Well, still, it looks like an agenda setting for the judiciary. So we'll wait for the judiciary to make its ruling tomorrow. By the way, there's a live broadcast opportunity for that, as announced as well, for television stations to take advantage of that opportunity. Let's go above the nameplate. There's some interesting ones there for you to listen to this morning. I get frightened each time I receive workers' payroll. That's not me. I didn't say that. It's ascribed to the president. Let's remind Mr. President this morning that he campaigned for the job. He danced for the job. So, no complaints. He in fact says, don't pity me. So, Mr. President, be creative now.
Well, he's on his way to India. I'm sure he'll get the message.
Yeah, he'll get the message.
I think that what he's saying is not something, he's not saying something everyone hasn't expressed before. A good number of people will tell you that the percentage of funds that are deployed for civil service pay is humongous compared to what we really need. So I think that's what he's looking at. But well, let's
and he's got right ahead to expand that with a 48-member cabinet. So, Mr. President, your work is cut out for you. Listen to this next one. Pension, 72,000 workers not properly captured. That's ascribed to PENCOM. By the way, if you need to regularize your pension with additional identification details, you might as well go ahead and do that. Over the weekend, there were reports about the Pension Commission announcing the need for that to be done as soon as possible. 30 trillion naira borrowed from CBN. Inexperienced boy bought jet under Buhari Sanusi. That got a lot of tongues wagging over the weekend with the former Emir of Kano and former CBN governor weighing in on the financial management approach of the former administration. Let's leave it there for the Daily Trust newspaper this morning.
This Nigeria newspaper has this on its front page lead story. DSS warns over plots to stage violent protests. That's the lead of the paper. Identifies ringleaders. Now that's good. NLC adamant avoid meeting with FG to avert warning strike. Down tool will worsen plight of Nigerians. Suspend action, Labour Minister pleads. That story is on page 4 of this Nigeria newspaper this morning. Well, that same story is right there under the picture. Tinubu expresses concern over Nigeria's bloated civil service payroll. Stories on page 5. Plans to digitize public service with cutting-edge technology. I thought that's what IPs was supposed to be, but hey, what do I know? Right beside the nameplate, this Nigeria says, Nigeria generates 1.49 trillion naira from VAT in half one of 2023. That's ascribed to the NBS. Find the details of that on page 19 of this Nigeria newspaper. Wike frowns on 85 billion naira contract for Wasa housing infrastructure. By the way, Chamberlain, I heard you. Whether we should ply the rail line to come to work. Don't worry. Former governor and now governor of the FCT, minister of the FCT, he's also working on his own rail infrastructure line, for you. Right? So, yeah.
Well, by the way, thanks, guys, for your concern. Well, everyone is in a hurry to exit the petrol regime. So, an orange line.
Thanks, but no thanks. Your own is coming. That's this Nigeria newspaper today.
What? You prefer to trek? Okay. Just trying to look out for a brother, but that's all right. No worries. Take a look at Nigeria Tribune then. They also focusing on the strike which will take place today. So they say banks, aviation, other unions to join the strike. So that is the big lead on the front page here. TUC opts out of strike. NLC shuns parley with FG. FG meets TUC, gives 2 weeks deadline for wage award. So this is clearly a crack in Labour. TUC is opted out and FG is meeting with TUC. So will the Labour strike have kind of effect that they're looking for. So who knows? And then beneath that one, civil service payroll bill scares me. Tinubu. So what, are there ghost workers there? So many, that narrative about ghost workers all over the place, all over civil services across the country.
Well, they say when you reduce human contact, when you reduce human contact with some of these things, a lot of the gaps will be blocked. So
probably that meeting with Oracle chief they had yesterday, perhaps if they just take it to the civil service and hopefully not just the federal civil service, the states should follow the same path. Let's all digitize.
It will take a lot in the sense that not just the money that will be spent, but a lot in the sense that
but it saves us a lot.
The mindset of the workers would have to be, you have to convince them. A lot of people are not
convinced
and not ready to go digital, man.
If they don't see their salary, won't they be convinced?
Okay.
All right, well, that's Tribune this morning.
Our New Telegraph is next, and they're leading with that other story. Presidential election, Tinubu Atiku will be no fate tomorrow as Tribunal delivers judgment. I know Buki mentioned that there will be live transmission there. Yeah, Channels T will be there. We will be there to bring you live happenings, live feed from what's happening within the court. But that story is on page 2, 5, and 7, and above the nameplate. CBN non-oil export earnings dropped by 11.8% to $1.72 billion in first quarter of 2023. Interesting. We're looking to diversify the economy. Oil prices rise to $89 a barrel. We took that earlier from the Leadership newspaper, but again, come down below the nameplate here. You see this warning, strike banks to withdraw services 48 hours. Obasanjo, I knew Buhari didn't understand economics, but didn't know he was so reckless. That's coming from former president. Nigeria-led false life under Buhari borrowed 30 trillion naira from the CBN. That's coming from the former CBN governor. I'll go to page 2 and 3 to get more details on that story, where the two of them looks like they're speaking from the same place, of the same event. So you see that there. This one's in Lagos. Sanwo-Olu drops works education commissioners in new nominees list. Oh, that matter will be resolved so that he can get his team together. Finally, FG demands $1.7 million debt from Togo, Benin Republic.
Pay up
or
else.
No light. NEPA will step in. Well, that's it from New Telegraph.
And up next on the newspaper review segment this time around is Daily Times newspaper. Daily Times newspaper this time is looking at the labor strike that is supposed to commence today. By the way, let's know what's happening at your end, whichever state that you're watching us from. Is a strike effective? But listen to this. FG begs NLC. Strike will hold. NLC president vows. And just above that, fuel subsidy removal strike. So let's know what's happening at your end. And there are quite a number of other stories as well. February 25 poll. Tomorrow is Judgment Day for Tinubu, Atiku, Obi, Oj. That would be the Allied People's Movement, the other political party that is also listed in the number of suits there. Nigerians wait with bated breath, anxiety in candidates' camps. So we're going to be there for you live, as Nyota said, and bring you live proceedings from the court. A number of stories are at the bottom strip as well. 32 kidnappers, suspected armed bandits nabbed by Adamawa. Wike frowns on, that should be 85 billion naira agreement for Wasa housing projects. And the last of the stories at the bottom strip says, ex-militants threaten Tumpolo. Ask federal government to split contract. That would be the contracts for the protection of pipelines. That's an interesting one, Ayo.
Oh, most certainly.
Yes, indeed.
The Guardian newspaper this morning has this one on its front page, and it's the lead story: bold reforms leave Nigerians more miserable amid assurances. A very interesting way to put those words together. Bold reforms, miserable assurances.
Wonderful combination of words, if you ask me also.
Those words are, man, I don't know. I mean, you've heard everything you need to hear in that story. You just
how bold and assurance can mix with misery.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even, but it's I mean, that's journalism for you. Stories on page 6, find the details right in there. Of course, that image and graphics is Tinubu's burden of resetting Nigeria in 100 days and all those things that have happened. Some are indicated in green, some are indicated in red. The details you find on the inside pages of the paper this morning. Gabon co-leader General Ugwema sworn in as interim president. Interesting. Apprehension as Labour begins warning strike. Court rules on presidential election, and a host of other stories that you'll find interesting on the front page of the Guardian newspaper this morning. And with the Guardian newspaper, we come to an end of a look at some of the dailies this morning, but a few of them are lined up right after this break. Do stay with us.
The Council scrutinized the federal government's failure to establish essential structures to address the widespread suffering in our nation. Furthermore, it is considered that the government's deliberate neglect and disregard for engaging the national stakeholders through the channel of social dialogue, a commitment it had solemnly declared during the President's inaugural speech on May 29, 2023. Consequently, NEC in session resolved as follows: to embark on a total and indefinite shutdown of the nation within 14 working days or 21 days from today until steps are taken by the government to address the excruciating mass suffering and the impoverishment being experienced around the country. To commence a 2-day nationwide warning strike on Tuesday and Wednesday, 5th and 6th of September 2023, to demonstrate our readiness for the indefinite strike later in the month, and to also demand that the state vacates the illegally occupied national headquarters of the National Union of Road Transport Workers. It has become pertinent to appeal to the leadership of the Nigerian Labour Congress, NLC, to suspend its intended 2 days warning strike, as such action would be detrimental to the gains already been recorded on our course to securing a greater future for Nigerian workers and citizens at large. Furthermore, I would request that the comrade leadership of the Nigerian Labour Congress give this government some time to settle and address the issues on the ground holistically. It should be realized that the cabinet of this administration was only recently sworn in by Mr. President, and all cabinet members have hit the ground running. Therefore, the issues raised by the leadership of the NLC are some issues that I and the Honorable Minister of State for Labor and Employment are being briefed upon. On the issue of subsidy removal, palliative measures are already being handled and implemented, beginning with the state and the local governments. The issue of the review of minimum wage, which was promised by the President, will also receive attention so as to ensure that the Nigerian worker is not adversely affected by the challenges of the moment. Earlier, Mr. President had directed the purchase of CNG-powered buses and implementation of the policy for the conversion of petrol cars to gas as a way of reducing the cost of energy for transportation. In the course of the coming weeks, additional measures will be announced, having consulted with the leadership of the organized labor and key stakeholders.
All right, welcome back. Yes, indeed, that and many other issues that are going on today and some that will happen tomorrow are some of the matters that we will discuss this morning with our panel of analysts here today. We've got Dr. Adegboyega Bamishile, who is a global diplomat, UN Eminent Peace Ambassador, a member of the All Progressives Congress and Deputy Chief of Staff to DG of the defunct Tinubu Shetima Campaign Council. We also have Alaba Yusuf, who is the head public relations and member at Atiku Okowa presidential campaign. Gentlemen, good morning. Thank you for coming on today.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.
Well, quite a lot. Yeah, a lot making the rounds today, and then there's a big one tomorrow. But today, Labour is embarking on this, what they say is a 2-week warning strike. And the narratives today, 2 days. Did I say 2 weeks?
You say 2 weeks.
Oh, sorry, 2 days strike. And your party, they're not happy with the activities and the policies that government has put in place. And they think, look, this is the best way to send the message. So from your perspective, you think that, look, what now, Labour, the patience has run out. And at the moment, this is where we find ourselves. Is your party handling this right?
Well, thanks very much. Morning, Nigerians. Well, the issues that have been raised at a time when the cabinet was about to be formed. Now, the cabinet of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is a week plus old, and they're currently receiving briefings from their respective departments and agencies. So, one can expect that, we should allow for time and allow for dialogue. I think it's a time for dialogue. I think it's too early, in the administration for communications to break down. And there are procedures to this thing. We saw the Honorable Minister yesterday when he alluded that a lot of the information he has gotten, he got from the social media like most Nigerians. Till date, the NLC has not even formally, submitted their complaints to him. But, the central theme of his discussions with the press and with the TUC who was present yesterday was, allow us some time, please. Let's look at, the areas and the points that have been raised. And, we'll start working on it. So the TUC who was present said, okay, we hear you. We hear, what you allude to be the challenges of the federal government. And we're willing to allow 2 weeks, to go through these things again with the new administration.
Well, Mr. Yusuf, part of what Labour is going on strike for is part of what your principal said he was also going to do, removal of the fuel subsidy. So one wonders, what's your impression about all of this? Because who knows, if your principal had won, he might have been facing the similar narrative.
Good morning, Nigerians, once again, and thank you, Chamberlain. My principal, His Excellency Atiku Abubakar, will have done things in a different manner. He's been in government. He was the head of the economy, was former vice president, so he knew what to do, and he still knows what to do. Essentially, the government has always enjoyed favor from Labour. Oh, the executive has always taken advantage. Despite the extant law of separation of powers, the executive in Nigeria has always seen itself as superior to both the legislature and the executive. This is an APC government. The previous government is APC. So, where is the difference? So the problems are already there. Integrity, credibility, plausibility, believability. These are things that people attend to when it comes to negotiation. Reputation matters. The last administration, which was an APC government, treated labor like rag. So they cannot believe them. To the extent that the ordinary Nigerian does not even believe labor. They feel that labor they will be settled. Now, what do you call it? The chicken has come home to roost. But because, excuse me, let me land on this. Now, the removal of the subsidy was done without any whatever. And please, let us not pity Mr. President. Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
He said no.
He said he asked for the job. It has been his life ambition to become president. So, why are you begging for time for? They said they hit the ground running. I've not seen anyone. But on the road, I don't see vehicles on the road anymore.
The earlier point you made about government treating labor like rags, but I thought it was in the same country where ASU, when they embarked on strike, students, it was equally a bitter pill, like several of the strikes, and that was during your party, when your party was in power at the time as well. It wasn't any different. So governments, all political parties, PDP, APC, whichever, they seem to have the same template in terms of how to treat labor. So you make it sound as though your party treated labor better than now.
You see, leadership counts a lot. And it boils down to the individual. J.F. Kennedy once said that do not fear to negotiate and do not negotiate out of fear. There are those who feel that once you become president, you are the Lord. We've seen EPROS as civilian presidents in this country. I won't mention names. You know them better. Atiku is not in that class. It's not in that league.
Sorry, when you say you know them better...
You know them. So we are media people. We know them.
Okay, you know them.
We know them. We all know them. Like emperors.
Let me come back to you, Dr. Bamshile. You said something earlier about time needed. I mean, from what Mr. Alaba has said, there is no time. And I think one of the things that your party promised, that you will hit the ground running. You said the cabinet is still being briefed. These are things that have been going on. Your party was in power, and now your party is continuing. These are issues that have been. So how much time does one need to be briefed about something that has been happening? Are there no low-hanging fruits that could have been plucked just to keep the momentum while conversations are going on?
Okay, it's an interesting time to be a Nigerian, and I have to say I empathize with Nigerians. We need to take these matters more seriously than we are taking it. There are procedures. I'm a process man, You can't have resumed office in a week and say that, you want to start deploying resources. Otherwise, you would stand the chance of deploying resources wrongly. You need to take briefings. You need to understand the problems, within the ministry that you have been sent to. Now, Nigerians can attest to the fact that the president's directive to send rice and grains to cushion the effects of the subsidy removal, they've started receiving throughout local governments. Nigerians can attest to the fact that based on the NEC directive under the leadership of President Kashim, Vice President Kashim, they've sent out 5 billion, to further, reduce the pangs of this, subsidy removal. 2 billion has been, so it's processes, So we've had bosses. Hang on a second.
No, if I may come in, bosses. Just so that I add to the processes. I mean, considering the fact also that the current Minister of Labour was a governor of the state, so he had to deal with labor issues.
Absolutely,
it's this same labor that is here. More, okay, now you say maybe it's an expanded labor, but it's the same labor.
So what do you do, for example, when labor has been invited to the table to have dialogue with this same minister who has been with them for a while, but they refuse to come? Instead, they prefer to go on that 2-day warning strike, which is okay. You've sounded your note of warning. The government has heard you. They've invited you to say, let's talk about these things. Let's look at the areas that you have, where your complaints, lie, and let's see what we can do for intervention, to resolve these problems quicker. But would you, rather come to the table or go for this strike? TUC did well by coming and saying, okay, these are our problems. They talked about, state workers are already receiving, that minimum wage increase. Federal government should follow suit. They talked about taxation. They talked about the 5 billion, 2 billion of which had already started being, rolled out in palliatives. The minister said, well, I hear you, but would you allow us some time to go through these things so that we can start, the process of attending to them? And they said yes and went back. So I would have loved to see a situation where Labour was at the table also yesterday, rather than embarking on the strike.
Mr. Yusuf, while Dr. Bamshile is looking at processes, your party has been in this space, and I'm sure you'll be priding yourself that you've handled it better, but some will say the circumstances are different. Situation on ground is different. But you said your principal would have handled things differently, and you said that the executive has always taken advantage of the people. Okay. Did your party not take advantage of the people? That's what you're implying also, that your party took advantage of the people.
Well, what I'm trying to say here is that we should understand that if way forward for the country, as of today, the election that brought this president to power was not clean. People will have a bit of sympathy. There was anger. Now hunger has been added to it. People are waiting earnestly for tomorrow, for the judgment tomorrow. Now, go to the road, check. Under Jonathan, a bag of rice was 7,500. Today, a bag of rice is about 50
What
something.
do people expect tomorrow? What are they waiting for exactly?
Nigerians?
Yeah.
Eyes on the judiciary. Eyes on the judiciary. You understand me? No, yeah. You see, that's the last hope of the ordinary man. People are not satisfied that you could just talk about glitch, talk about grab power and run away with it. And it now happened in practice. You understand me? So an illusion has now become, a dream has become a reality. So all this, in public relations terms, there are three things in negotiation, in crisis management. Consultation, Labour has done that. Conciliation, they did that. Now this confrontation, the 3C. It is now down to government to change hostility to friendliness, which they are not doing. Adversity to prosperity, they are not doing that.
So wait,
and apathy to sympathy.
So when you say people are waiting for tomorrow,
yeah.
Labour, which by the way we reached out to, but they couldn't make the program, they are also waiting. PDP also waiting. So what's going to happen?
The entire country is waiting because the image of our nation.
Yeah, but Labour wants it to swing their way. PDP wants it to swing their way.
No, you're talking about Labour Party. There's a difference between Labour Party
No.
and...
I'm talking about what you said, people are waiting for tomorrow.
Yes. I said, Nigerians, there are some Nigerians who are not partisan, who are ordinary voters, who wanted their vote to count, or to have counted.
All right, Dr. Bamshile, is your party jittery about tomorrow?
Not at all. I mean, I think we have to allow the court of jurisprudence to, rule on this matter. They have the petitions before them. So let's wait. I like how, the registrar of the appellate court, Umar Bangari, has said, this court proceedings will be televised for Nigerians to see. And I think by global standards, that's what we expect. And that's what Nigerians expect.
You're not bothered.
So, I mean, why should we be bothered? We have, like you have highlighted.
You can win.
You have, like you have highlighted.
You know how it's going to go already tomorrow.
I mean, why would I say that? I don't want to be held in contempt of any court.
No, you will
but
not.
what I'm saying is, we have issues that are, bordering on the welfare of Nigerians. and there's high expectations. Nigerians gave us their confidence and trust for a reason, because they know that we can do this thing. You know, we've inherited so many problems. There's dips in productivity, you know, where there's high unemployment rates, you know. There's issues around, you know, working in line with the conventions and recommendations of the International Labour Organization. All this can only be achieved in an atmosphere of industrial peace. You know, so I really want to urge the Labour.
You know, I was going to go, before you get into, take us back to Labour now. We moved away from Labour and we moved on
work.
to
It's time to work and to dialogue.
Yeah. Because I do know that the tribunal, when they started, said they'll be working based on evidence, no technicalities, whatever. Now, from your perspectives, the two of you, would you say that your parties have put out enough evidence for the tribunals to give a judgment that will favor you? You can start.
Oh, thank you very much. Well, whatever is in court, you don't need to touch that.
No, we're not.
Well, I will talk about court of honor. That's what you call court of honor. And the court of honor is where people speak the truth. Nobody is getting punished for that, but your conscience determines what happens to you. Pick a man like Atiku and trace him. He's traceable. He has checkered history. In public service, in private service, in government. While he was former vice president, Nigeria's debt was cancelled, was negotiated. Things were moving. The likes of the technocrats like...
So he was in charge at the time?
He was the head of the economy. He was the head of the economy. And that's why when he talked about privatization he was talking about is that why should you keep moribund something that's not, you do turnaround maintenance of refineries that are not producing. You keep spending money. Like Obasanjo would say, former president Obasanjo would say, you don't invest in something that fails. But we keep doing that. So, an Atiku is a man who has the experience, the know-how. Our lawyers have done their bit. We live, tomorrow is just 24 hours.
So whichever way the pendulum swings tomorrow, what key factors will your party look out for upon which you can then say, okay, having seen the considerations, the factors and how the judgment was delivered, and then you could say, all right, I think this was fair. What would those factors be?
Tomorrow is not endgame. Let's realize that.
I know.
Yeah, that's the Supreme Court. So
you're looking forward to the Supreme Court?
Either party.
You sound like you're looking forward to the Supreme Court.
I'm just saying to you, either party will see approach the Supreme Court. If the president...
No, I'm not talking about either party now. I'm talking about your party.
I'm just saying to you, if it swings our way, we expect the other party to go to the Supreme Court.
No, I'm asking.
Excuse me.
If the pendulum, whichever way the pendulum swings, what will be the key considerations for you or your party to say, having looked at this, and that, we think it was a fair delivery of judgment? What would those be?
Well, part of it is the personalities involved, qualification of candidates, FCT.
How do you mean personalities involved?
The candidates that contested the election.
We all know them.
Yeah, you know them. Do you know their history?
So they got to the top. That's part of...
It's part of the dispute of our club. Do you know their qualification? You understand me? These are the things. The issue of FCT is there.
We'll come back. For you, what would those be? If whichever way the pendulum swings, what would you see upon which you can say, having looked at these factors, it was a fair delivery?
Well, 3 petitions have been filed before the 5-member panel, and all evidences have been put in. I am counting on, the court, the panel, the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal, to deliver justice for Nigerians in the interest of our democracy, So, I think the trajectories here are very different, On the one hand, we are in government and we're focusing on, recording developmental strides and, moving the discourse forward. from, developing to developed nation. And it's okay to see the opposition in court and agitating and that. It's all right. I mean, I think tomorrow the long-awaited bride would be brought home. And Nigerians are optimistic.
Okay, we'll talk more on some of these matters when we return in just a moment, so stay on with us.
Thank you so much for staying with us. Well, let me come back to you, Mr. Alaba Yusuf. There is hardly any election held in Nigeria that has not been contested. Particularly in this republic, there is none, if memory serves me right, that has not been contested. However, what is unique about this year's election is that it is the first time we are having 3 leading candidates the way we did, and a good number of people will say it's the most keenly contested election so far. Now, there are those who are saying, whoever would lead we should have been able to get more than 50% of total votes, but a host of other issues, have arisen in that. And I know that a number of things have been said along those lines. However, in the name of strengthening our democracy and in the name of instilling trust in the process for many Nigerians, so far for you, I'm speaking more as a Nigerian than a politician, what are the key takeaways that you would say Nigerians should, for now, before the election, be looking to as lessons we have learned in this process so far?
Thank you very much. Now, I'll be speaking as a public relations person, creating understanding for mutual benefits and national development. Let's put an analogy of marriage, a relationship between husband and wife. Let's say a man is dating 2 ladies. 2 of them were supposed to be, suitors, And while they were doing that, they said one of the ladies should stay with the man for 3 months or 100 days. And while the community will decide who will become the husband, become the wife. In between, the woman gets pregnant. So who becomes wife? That is one takeaway from this. The government, there should be judgment, there should be decision in election before the inauguration of any government, like it was done in Kenya. That's one takeaway. Secondly, if INEC is to be, the I in INEC should be written in capital letters, independent. Independence should be in terms of finance, should be separated from government. And the government should not be the one, the president should not be the one appointing chairman of INEC. Therefore, because when an umpire becomes biased, then the game is over. The election was, everybody had interest in this election. Why? Because the election was conducted based on hunger and anger. People, there was don't forget October 20, the NSAS protest. Don't forget the ASU strike. So many things have gone wrong. The Nigerian National Bureau of Statistics has given unemployment at very alarming rate. There's hyper inflation, or there was hyper inflation and more now before the election. So people went to vote. There was belief in digital, tech, talking about beavers, the IREV, and the rest of it. All of a sudden, at the grand finale, they said the IREV could not work, or there was a glitch. Up to today, nobody has given any reason or told the country what went wrong. Who does that? So, the takeaway for Nigerians is that if the judiciary does not handle this properly, I mean, in the perception of the public, people may not go out to vote. There will be apathy. People are disillusioned. There's frustration all over the place. People go to school, no employment. Those that are employed, their take-home cannot take them home anymore. So it is difficult to govern people that are not happy. You know, I remember one governor, I think one governor of Imo State, Rocha Sokorocha, that created Minister of Happiness. If you are not happy, you just not happy, and you won't be productive.
Okay.
Today, can anybody blame any worker for not coming to work? No.
All right. Well, Mr. Yusuf, that's a fair point to make. But let me ask Mr. Dr. Bamishile, you know, there's a host of Nigerians who believe that this election carries a lot of weight for the largest segment of Nigeria's population, which are young people. And depending on what side of the divide you find yourself, opinions are as divided. Be it in the north and in the south and in the east and in the west. There are those who would reference the 2019 elections, how it was difficult for young people at that time who are at the forefront to take a major decision of coming together. And then now this election, it would seem like there was a huge rallying point in different parts of the country for one, you know, leaning or the other. And the pronouncement of the court tomorrow is going to say one thing or the other, and expectations are pitch fever high. For you, what are the lessons for young people so far? The elections, the judgment of the court has not been read. We're looking forward to it. But for now, for you, what are the elections? What are the lessons for young people so far in this process?
Sorry, I lost you a bit there. What are the lessons for young people?
Yeah. Yes, that's it. In this process, what are the lessons so far for young people?
So as against the 2019 election, where we had about 35% voter turnout, I think this 2023 election, we had about 25%, you know, a little under 25 million out of 87 million PVCs that were, you know, collected. So there was low voter turnout. The lessons are for young people to participate more, better in politics than just, you know, stand on the sidelines. And I can tell you that young people already have seen these in play, that, you know, the more they take the back seat on, you know, the discourse, the more decisions are made on their behalf, you know. But I also want to tell you that young people voted en masse for Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, ECFR. And, you know, he recorded the highest number of votes in this election. Like you rightly pointed out, the only time that elections have not been contested in Nigeria in the courts is during, I think, 2015, when President Goodluck Jonathan conceded, you know, and, you know, without saying it, he was telling Nigerians that, you know, the party could no longer handle the challenges, and, you know, he was willing to allow someone else to take the reins. A lot of the problems that we are talking about here, you know, emanated from, you know, the other party. And, you know, I don't like anyone to sit down and say, well, this party has not done this or has not done that. Elections are meant to be contested. You know, if you are able to influence people on your expertise and what you are bringing to the table, they would vote for you. If you don't, then you go to a court like we're already in court, and let's wait for the outcome of what, you know, the decisions that panel will make eventually. So young people should participate, better in politics. And this is, it begins at the grassroots. You know, we cannot stay in our concrete jungles and just, you know, use our phones and devices to talk about what we believe should be and not. We should go back to our wards, you know, participate from at ward level, at local government level, state level, you know. So the opportunities are always there, you know, for young people. And our party is open to youth participation in any case, you know. So this is my point of view.
And you know, it's been quite some wait for the ruling of the judiciary. Let me come to you now, Mr. Alaba, Mr. Yusuf. Amid that wait, the judiciary seems to perceive that there's some pressure, you know, from political parties based on their messaging, either from their supporters or from their candidates. Do you feel culpable to some extent, you know, that the messaging from your candidate or even the candidate of other political parties has been putting some form of pressure on the judiciary, such that it's feeling, it may even be feeling like, you know, it's some form of subtle blackmail to influence the outcome of its ruling tomorrow?
Thank you very much. The word blackmail I would not like to use, but there's a popular brand of liquor that says shine your eyes. It is important. It's a Nigerian parlance where it's a lingo. We have seen situations in history where you have leaders who call themselves that I am the state, Louis XVI. We have seen people who say, who is presidency? So what we're saying is that we have seen how even the judiciary was treated, members of the judiciary treated, raided, their homes raided and the rest of it. So we're not saying that is happening now, but all we're saying is that in a situation, in a football game, in any sport, the referee must be unbiased. The umpire must be seen as a transparent, credible one that has integrity. We respect the judiciary. We believe in them. They've done well in the past, but in every society, in every organization, there are bad eggs. And when people point, what do you call it, direct attention to the bad eggs, so they should not be, the word blackmail should not come into it, because we know there's corruption all over the world. People still question former American President Trump over the issue of January 6th, the invasion of the Capitol. So what we're saying here is that we should allow the judiciary to be independent, not when their resources come from the presidency, when their allowances and everything comes, their appointment and everything comes from presidency. And now they say, he that pays the piper dictates the tune. Nigerians are not happy that a glitch took away their votes. And nobody is explaining. That's where the problem lies. So now we're talking about the young people. Young people, the netizens, the internet natives, they believe, they do Big Brother, they do other things, they vote online, they transfer money online. People believe in it. But why is it that we cannot vote online, or at least let our result be transferred or transmitted online?
But Mr. Yusuf,
and we're talking about glitch.
Those calls...
So the judiciary we're talking about, nobody is blackmailing the judiciary.
But Mr. Yusuf, those calls...
Nobody... See, it's an excuse that some people are using because emotion not part of this.
But Mr. Yusuf...
We should not sensationalize
Mr. Yusuf, pardon me if I may come in there. If I may come in there, those calls for independence of the judiciary, for the unbiased dispensation of their work of the judiciary, can be made without the filtering of those issues online on social media and on the front pages of newspapers, there are reports of accusations of made against some judges of working for a particular candidate. There are reports, for instance, your candidate put up a post filtering some of those issues that are before the courts. Don't you think that that is subtle blackmail of the judiciary, and by extension, the judiciary feels right to be pressured in doing its work?
My sister, the word blackmail is a colonial term. I don't like it when people use it. I live in England for 32 years. So why blackmail? Why not whitemail? So the issue is this. My principal, my boss, will never be the one to talk about blackmail. He is a defender of democracy. He's liberal-minded. He has been to court several times. And because of him, that's why president cannot sack their deputy, their vice, and governor cannot sack their deputy. Let us believe in the courts. Let us work towards justice, fair play. A situation where you say grab power and run away with it, and now a glitch took away people's vote, and you say people should not talk. It doesn't make sense. That's the truth of it. So we are just saying, because we see situations where technicalities of the law have been used to take away people treat the symptoms and leave the actual sickness. You know, we should not leave leprosy to treat other skin disease. So essentially, this issue is that tomorrow is tomorrow. But we know everything will not end tomorrow. Whichever way the pendulum swings, the Supreme Court is the final arbiter. You know, after that, well, is the Almighty.
Well, Mr. Bamishile,
the fact remains that the country should move forward by not allowing the legislature now to do a job that election petition should be handled and resolved before inauguration. Because if you allow one of the two ladies contesting for a man to stay with the man, and the man impregnates the lady, who is now the wife? They will not tell you biologically they have a child now. You that you don't have a child, you can just walk away. Sorry, we'll say to you. It shouldn't be like that. Elections have been determined against government. President. It happened in Kenya. It happened in Malawi. So heaven will not fall if this happens here. The young people are expectant, because if they went, you said they went violent way. They said nobody was killed at EndSARS. What do we see? A lot of people being buried, unknown. Are we back to unknown soldiers, unknown corpses? No, it shouldn't be like that. Second, now they went to vote, and they voted hoping that, oh, IREF. Where I voted, another party won. The bulk of the people that voted, they were young people. But now, you said, like my brother here said, he said the Nigerian youth voted en masse. I don't believe in that. It may not be the truth. But essentially, we should, anything goes into to the social media. And social media is not, orthodox media. So whoever can sit in the comfort of his house to write something on behalf of anybody, you never hear my boss or the PDP or itself to go out to say this is what. There's no blackmail. Nobody's blackmailing anyone. Well, I
imagine that Mr. Bamishile will have one or two things to say about, some of the points that you have put forward, particularly your argument, about Nigerians being denied their vote, based on a glitch, according to the explanation provided by the electoral umpire. And in addition to that, perhaps you'd also like to, comment on that call for reforms to the electoral process. What are the things that you think should be, put in place such that going forward there would be no technical glitches, they would have a seamless electoral process, particularly with the staggered elections in view? Mr. Bamishile, that's for you.
So thanks very much. This government is a listening government. These are points that have been taken on advisement even before mentioned here this morning. So You know, you can expect the best outcomes from a lot of the deliberations that are currently ongoing. And like I said, I don't believe in everything that I read on social media because it doesn't determine much, you know, but consensus and empathy towards a particular cause. But there are formal avenues to seek redress, and currently the PEPC is the body that is looking at the outcome of the February 25th presidential election, and we should allow them to do that. I, for one, I have confidence in the Court of Justice as the last resort for the average citizen of Nigeria. And like he said, or from the appellate court to the Supreme Court, once we get that ruling, I think everybody can rest, you know.
While that
outside
process
of
is
that,
going on,
I would not like to encourage, you know, these allegations, blackmail or whitemail.
Well, yeah. While that argument is going on, Dr. Bamishile, my colleagues have taken you up on some, you know, governance-related issues earlier. So let's go back there for a bit. Well, a sizable number of people, including previous Emir of Kano and the former CBN governor, saying that there's been a lot of crisis even before this government came into power. But then, as he said, and that we've been reminded by Mr. Yusuf this morning, he has asked not to be pitied, but that he should just, you know, be encouraged or whatever it is to do what needs to be done. You spoke earlier about process. While the PEPC process is ongoing, governance processes cannot take the back seat. The reality of the pangs that people are feeling are no less significant. So I will stick with you for young people again about governance-related issues. The things that people are going through in the different parts of this country is better imagined, because it's only when you feel it that you actually do know it. You said it, the president, the government is a listening government and all of those things, but then is it a communicating government? Is it a persuading government? That's another thing altogether. A good number of these things happen at the state's level. But then we have the federal government taking the lead in a number of issues. Are you seeing enough understanding or appreciation of the challenges on our hands as a nation among young people, particularly in the states? Or you think more needs to be done to help people understand the realities and the peculiarities of the situation we have on our hands, and consequently that communication needs to be championed more assiduously?
Thanks. I think the natural response to the removal of subsidy was the distribution of palliatives to first and foremost, and more importantly, pushing the effects of this removal. And palliatives is what palliatives does. It just attends to an imminent problem and seeks to address it, offering some level of comfort. However, when I speak of processes, government is now, with the newly formed cabinet, looking at, you know, doing the overall housekeeping and, you know, developing policies that will ensure prosperity, creation of jobs, covering the existing skills gap, you know, building a more skill supply infrastructure, you know, ensuring that workers enjoy social justice, rights at their respective workplaces, you know, creating decent, you know, employment opportunities. These are things that, you know, would involve the process of policy formulation, review, and eventual implementation. So that one would allow for a total overall of the system. However, like I said, palliatives are what palliatives does, and is equally as important. So whilst Nigerians can enjoy in the interim, the results of this initial 5 billion that has been released to the states, and I like what's happening. Civil societies have come up and said we want transparency, we want the disbursement to be open, we want to know who's getting what and how they're getting it. Government also is in a handshake with even the private sector to ensure that the distribution is hitch-free.
Are you satisfied with the way it's going so far?
So far, yeah. So far, so good.
Which one? What part exactly?
So when I say government is in a handshake with the private sector, I'm talking about I have seen, how, there's proper stock accounting for, like I said to you, the president gave directives for rice and grains to be taken to the states. These commodities were transported to respective states on vehicles that were tracked and monitored, and when they got to those states and got, offloaded into warehouses, there was proper stock accounting and management. And
so what about those who have received it? Do you have details? I mean, where can we check to see the list of those who have received it?
Chamberlain, just put a call through to your local government and, talk to your, member house of representatives.
We all can't keep calling the local government.
No, I mean, but these are the channels that, the formal channels for you to get information.
But isn't that a challenge that we face right now? Because if the country cannot say, well, really and truly, we do have a platform, a database,
where
you
can verify
a first system where we say, okay, well, these people are the ones who received it, and we can say that that's the case.
Again, so it's processes, So now we're in the distribution and disbursement segment of the initiative. We can expect that once the initiative is done, we can, go to a certain portal of the respective ministry or agency to say, okay, what happened with what?
So that is what we expect.
And that, yes. And then we can hold our governors accountable too, because they have been saddled with the responsibility to take care of the welfare of their citizens. The federal government has done, what they can do within the limits of reasonability at the time.
All right, Kunogo, I saw you giggling. You didn't agree with some things. Well, what don't you agree with this time?
Well, it's sad that we're still operating analog in the days of digital, the age of digital. We're in this country where people took money to the market. That's money. We're in a country where people don't have postal address. Are you going to churches or mosques? Are you going to schools? Who are this money being given to? Or the palliative we're talking about? We've seen people now taking it to go to where they, like you say, plans in the pipeline. In the past, people went to that pipeline to bust it, to check, and that led to bunkering. From there, people have been going to warehouses to take food.
But
so all I'm saying that as at now, 2 billion for a state. The 3 tiers of government, federal, state, and local government.
Okay, just before we go, what can you tell us as to why, when the PDP was in power, why don't we get a social security system? Or at least when everybody can say, yeah, we have this, we can build on this. What was the main challenge?
See, governors. Governor. When Okojewala, Dr. Ngozi Okojewala, the DG World Trade Organization, what did he say? Let us have sovereign wealth fund.
Yeah, but that's not social security.
Excuse me. When you have money kept aside that you can use during an emergency, you understand me? The likes of Governor Fayose and the rest of them, no, share this money. Share the money.
That's within the same party.
And most of the governors, they wanted the money.
So your party was divided within.
I'm just saying, it's not about, I'm talking about governors. Whether PDP, whatever party.
But SWF is not social security for, it's not social security for me or him or you or everybody.
Listen to me. But relatively speaking, people would prefer to go back to before 2015. Yes.
What part of that? Why
The bag of rice. Excuse
why
me.
would people want to go
Excuse
back?
me. First and foremost, you don't preach sanity to a man that is hungry.
The question of social security.
I know. Excuse me, but in England,
So are you avoiding it then?
in England, before you have the NHS, right? Before you had it, it took years, because first and foremost, we'll not be able to do.
PDP was in government for years
Excuse me, we'll not be able to do.
Why didn't we get it?
Census? You understand me? So,
okay,
it's
well,
not just about PDP or APC. All I'm talking about,
no,
it's about sanity in the system.
Yeah, but if those
system,
parties that were there couldn't provide sanity, why should we go back to them?
How old is our democracy in Nigeria? I'm only asking.
All right. Well,
even the UK, they are still struggling.
No,
even in America,
asking,
they still struggle.
I'm asking for a social security system for this country. Why didn't we have it when you?
Before you can have social security, you must be able to have proper election. You must be able to have.
So we didn't have proper elections.
No proper
all the years of PDP.
Census.
Okay.
Census.
All right. Alaba Yusuf, head public relations and member Atiku Okawa Presidential Campaign Council at the time, and also Dr. Adegboye Gabamishile is a member of the All Progressives Congress and Deputy Chief of Staff to the DG of the defunct Tinubu Shatima Campaign Council. He's also a global diplomat and UN eminent peace ambassador. Gentlemen, thank you for coming on, and we'll look forward to tomorrow and see how all of that plays out. So as you say,
thank you very much.
Many will be watching to see what happens.
Nigerians are watching. The world is watching.
All right. Well, back in a moment, everyone. Stay on with us. Okay, welcome back to Sunrise. Well, yes, now we'll be talking about the NYSC. We did look at some part of that yesterday, as a matter of fact, and now we're joined by Mr. Eddie Miagwa, who is the NYSC's Director of Press and Public Relations. He joins us virtually. Good morning, and thank you for joining us on the program today. Well, yes, perhaps you should go ahead and tell us. We did speak about the kidnapped core members. What can you tell us about it? What is going on with that now?
Chamberlain, thank you. Chamberlain, to say good morning to all Nigerians. First and foremost, let me send our heart feelings to the families of our prospective core members that were kidnapped. The entire NYSC family is in pain, just like you. We're praying to Almighty God that in no time, these prospective core members will be released, and all of us will be happy for it. But before this, I need to say that the young man that came on set yesterday, who claimed to be one of the parents of the kidnapped core members, it's not actually one of the parents. In fact, when we fact-checked, we discovered that he's just an in-law to one of the kidnapped prospective core members. However, he has right to have his feelings the way he expressed himself, but we must put it on record that from the point these core members or prospective core members were kidnapped, the parents of these prospective core members, they have a group chat, a group platform where they are relating with the management of the National Youth Service Corps. And in fact, the Director General of NYSC, Brigadier General Y.D. Hammett, every day relates with the families of these kidnapped prospective core members. Even as he was speaking yesterday, they were online with the DG discussing on what is going on. And since this issue had happened, the Director General and his management team moved to Zamfara. And right there, they've been there for the past 2.5 weeks, synergizing with the security agencies, the Army, the DSS, the police, to make sure that these children are released without being hurt.
Okay, so Mr. Magua, before you proceed a little further, so are the parents of the lady in question in the NYSC platform you spoke about?
Oh yes, oh yes. The mother is in the platform. The mother is in the platform. The young man who came on set yesterday, it's not there.
What's the name of the mother?
Due diligence in fact checking to find out from the family.
What is the name of the mother?
Sorry?
What's the name of the mother, the person on the platform?
Sorry, for security reasons, we would not want to disclose that.
Well, Mr. Etim, who was on the program, in fact, he sent us the lady's call-up certificate. So he says that the parents of the girl in question are late. The lady is his adopted daughter. So he's been the one catering for the girl. And so he had the call-up letter. He's been in touch with the lady throughout. And that is how he comes into the picture. That is his account of what he told us. Okay.
Well, that could be his submission. But in our records, we don't have him as the next of kin. We don't even have him as the parent of the prospective core member. But the point I'm trying to express that before people will come on national television to speak on issues, they should fact check what things they want to say so that they don't mislead the public and they don't use their words to incite the public. The NYSC have done everything humanly possible to make sure that these prospective core members are released without being hurt. And somebody will just walk up there to say that NYSC is not doing anything. Now, security issues are not issues you come on the platform of the television to start discussing. Don't forget, as you're talking, the enemies are watching. And they also want to take dressing from what you're saying. So please, we needed to come on air to clear this issue. And what we expect from the entire Nigerians to please pray along with us.
But Mr. Magua, just before, but what he told us, though, we need to put this on record so that if we get him back, he can clarify otherwise. What he said is, whoever you think you have on the platform is a sister. And so, but when you say is the mother, he says, well, look, he's not sure of what you're saying about that, but we will bring him back and then to clarify what all of this is. But just to put that out there on the record, that he is the parent of and the girl is his adopted daughter. That's what he categorically tells the whole world.
Now, if he is taking that position, then why is he not in the platform that all the families created and they're using it to relate to the management of the National Youth Service Corps? One expected him to be in that platform. But if he's in that platform, he will have first-hand information of what we are doing from the point that these core members or prospective core members were kidnapped.
Mm. Mr. Magua, while that is going on and while we put out our hearts to the parents and the families of these children who've been kidnapped, the NYSC is more or less like in a test as we speak, because it's not the first time that I've had core members kidnapped. I mean, 2018, 2019, 2023, and some prospective core members, even in Abuja this year also, besides this 9 that have been kidnapped. What's the plan of the National Youth Service Corps to ensure that this kind of a thing does not happen again?
My dear brother, let us not look at NYSC as if we are living in a different world. NYSC is part of Nigerian society. You and I know that the kind of security situation we're having in the country is not selective. Some students are kidnapped at a point. Some government officials are kidnapped at a point. Even young children in primary and nursery schools are kidnapped. So NYSC or core members are not living in a different world. But we have made it categorically clear, and we've told our core members, please don't travel in the night. In their call-up letters, we stated it clearly. In the addendum to their call-up letters, okay, section 8 of it, and subsection 1, 2, 3. We say, please, anywhere you are, and once it's 6 p.m., cut short your trip. Pass the night in any park or police station or military barracks or a call lodge, anywhere you think that is safe. Pass the night there. Tomorrow you continue your journey. Now, this issue in question, they got to that point around 8 p.m. And that road, that Funtua road, is a very deadly road. In fact, all passengers, the moment they get to that place by 6, they park. And they wait till the next day. But this driver continued in his trip. And we say, please, corps members or prospective corps members, anytime you are traveling, don't move after 6. Now, these are part of the security measures we have put in place to ensure that such issues will not happen. Okay, now when you go to our orientation camps, we have our security modalities that are put in place to ensure that security breaches does not occur while in the orientation camp. NYSC, we are very proactive, and that is why we send out this thing even before the commencement of the orientation camps. We make publications in traditional media, even in television, in print media. If you go to the section 3.4 of it, we told them specifically, please do not travel in the night. You know, some of these youth, sometimes you say this thing because of useful exuberance, they say, hey, let's go, nothing's going to happen. And in the process, they get nabbed. But suffice it to say that the management has done everything that they need to do
Mr.
to ensure
if I may come in here, I do know that when we served, one of the slogans at that time was, when you're a corps member, you are government Pekin. So the government is responsible indeed for your everything, your transportation, your health, your insurance, your protection. So at that point in time, and it's called the National Youth Service Corps, at that point in time, that young man, that young woman belongs to the federal government. When you say you've done everything possible, that some will say, what exactly, besides all this, don't travel at night, when you get to the police station, sleep there, when you get to this place, sleep there, what are the things, can you be more specific? Because some will tell you that, hey, every corps member goes out there, he's more or less on his own till he gets to camp. And it's only when he gets to camp that he's somewhat taken care of.
Right. We have reached out to National Union of Road Transport Workers. And we have also told them, please, between so time and so time, our corps members or prospective corps members will be traveling. Please ensure you give them adequate attention and brief your drivers. Let them not drive in the night. Now, no matter the kind of security apparatus that is kept around you to monitor you and to make sure you are safe, you yourself need to be security conscious. Your life should be more important to you than any other person. And so if you are not security conscious, then you are making yourself vulnerable to issues just as the one we are saying. Perchance, they did not travel in the night. Perchance, they slept at a safe place by 6 p.m. All these issues we're talking about wouldn't have happened. However, it has happened, and it is our responsibility and the responsibility of the entire Nigerians to ensure that we will, get them back safe and good.
Let me read this message from Mr. Emmanuel Lete, who was the person you're talking about. He says, he sent us this message: Glory Thomas is my daughter. All the talks are distractions. If there's a platform circulating information to the parents and I'm not included, does not mean she's not my daughter. She is an orphan who is looking up to me as a father, and I have a responsibility to protect her interest. And then he goes on to say, among several other things, if it interests anyone to know who I am, then find out from the girl who I am. All he needs is the release of the daughter. So at the moment, what can you say is the current situation now? Because people are so looking forward to the release of these ACOR members. I know it will be challenging to get all of that sorted, but what can you tell us about attempts being made to release them?
Before I answer that, I need to equally clarify that when somebody, Chamberlain, you're a parent, you have children. If you're a child, it's going through the kind of situation these young ones are going, you will stop at nothing to ensure that you liaise with the relevant agencies to ensure that you know what is actually going on. Now, I am taken aback that Emmanuel Lete claims to be a father to one of these prospective kidnapped corps members. And he has not found it important to identify with the group that is trying to find out how to get these children out of the situation. It is mind-boggling. I can't just believe it. However, going to the question you asked, for the past 2.5 weeks, the DG has been in Zamfara State. He has met with all the security agencies. He has even met with the traditional ruler, the Emir of Safe. He visits him often. And we have had meaningful discussion with them, including the governor of the state. Now, everything has been done. I cannot disclose the situation because it's a security issue, but I want to believe that in no time, by the grace of God Almighty, that these children are going to come back to us, hell and heaven. Yeah, we will keep hope alive in that regard. And I cannot question anyone, I mean, parents who treat whichever style they have. It's beyond me to question all of that. But he also did tell us that they had called him from the camp at the time, the kidnappers, demanding 4 million naira. And after a while, the trail went cold. So is there any information in that regard? Are they asking questions, or is it something you don't want to disclose yet? Yeah, I think that's an issue we wouldn't want to talk about because it might be injurious to situations that we're handling. So please, let's just set it aside. Because if money is the issue, our children would have been back. But we are working to ensure that they come back to us safely without being hurt. All right. Okay, let's bring in our colleagues in Lagos.
Well, thank you, Chamberlain. Well, Mr. Megwa, my colleague Nota asked the other time about whether or not the NYSC has done everything possible, as you said. I mean, we cannot remonstrate or argue with the tremendous and immense, intense work the NYSC is doing, operating from whatever spot in the country to manage the affairs of youth corps members spread across all the square kilometers in the country, 36 states, 774 local governments. It's a lot of work and it's a logistic nightmare. There is no doubt about it. However, when you say, I mean, they've been advised to not travel in the night and all, yesterday, one of the things we tried to do was to even try to measure the distance between Akwa Ibom, where the takeoff point was, and where the occurrence happened. Depending on the kind of vehicle you're driving, is between 17 and 20 or even 22 hours, depending on time of day, vehicle being driven, and all of those things. If they don't have a dedicated vehicle, it's only at the, and looking at their own costs, the transporters' costs and everything, they would decide whether or not they want to continue and all of that. These students are probably going to these areas for the very first time in their lives. Their eyes are focused on one particular location, in this case, maybe Sokoto State. And here we are having to, they're advised to stay, come off the vehicle every 8 hours or thereabout and not travel any further. Was there any provision made for them to travel? Was there any, could the NYSC, for instance, have given a kind of dedicated vehicle with enough security, personnel? I don't know. I mean, I'm just throwing up all these issues because my colleague raised with you the other time the number of times that these things have happened, particularly to corps members who are naturally petrified about most of them are naturally petrified about anything Nigerian. But then here they are now, they have to do this. So is there any other thing that could have been done to, perhaps particularly in the light of the security challenges, ensure that this kind of thing doesn't happen?
My brother, I appreciate the way you have expanded the situation. But let us look at it against the backdrop of the reality we are having in the country. And of course, vis-a-vis the number of corps members that we call up every year for national service. Now, we are talking about 350,000 corps members that we mobilize for national service every year. Now, where the National Youth Service Corps go hiring buses, designate them at different states of the federation, different local government areas, different villages, so for them to converge, to start taking them to different orientation camps and all that. Now, let us also look at it. Now, we have, especially in this batch, about 68,000 core members that are mobilized for this 2023 batch B stream 2 core members. Okay, now we now have this fraction that had this kidnap incident. Okay, now we recorded almost 100% success. We're not saying that these ones are not they're important to us. They're very dear to us. And that is why for the first time in the history of the National Youth Service Corps, that the Director General and his management will leave the headquarters of the National Youth Service Corps and relocate to Zamfara State. He decided not to touch any other orientation camp. He stayed right there to ensure that he see to it that these children are released. So questioning the issue, can we make flights available? Can we make vehicles available? It's undoable because of the nature of the program which we are coordinating. I'm very sure you served. And when you served, I'm sure nobody paid your flight ticket or paid your road fare for you to get to the destination of your orientation camp. I served too.
Mr. Megwa.
The same thing. But as the issue evolved, of course, everything boiled down to Naira and Kobo. Okay, ideas will be welcome. Those that are practicable will handle it.
Mr. Megwa.
Those that cannot will leave it.
Mr. Megwa, if that is the case, and considering also all of the other things that you have said that the NYSC is doing, to ensure the success of the scheme, would you be willing, will the Corps be willing to consider the concerns of parents, particularly the one put forward by Mr. Ete, who claims to be the guardian of Glory Thomas, that the Corps should stop posting members, prospective members? By the way, I noted that you kept referring to them as prospective members, should stop posting them to Sokoto, Zamfara, and Kebbi states because of the security situation. Regardless of the guidance provided in the call-up letter, I'm very sure that a number of parents would not rest assured knowing that their children will be secure when they're traveling to those routes, for the resumption of their primary assignment.
Yeah, thank you. It is, of course, an utmost concern to the National Youth Service Corps to ensure that our young children that go for national service are very safe and good to undertake their National Youth Service Corps program. We'll be glad to see that all of them that will call up for national service report at their various orientation camps and arrive safe and undertake the program. However, the call not to send core members or prospective core members to some states, it's not a decision National Youth Service can make. We are working with an act, and the act of NYSC is part of the Constitution of the Federal Republic. And so we cannot just wake up and say, okay, Sokoto, Zamfara, ABC, we cannot send core members there. No. For instance, in the past 12 years, we've not had orientation course program in Borno State. Now, recently, in this present orientation camp that is ongoing, we have core members having the orientation camp in Borno State now. And we recorded about 1,228 core members right in the orientation camp there. And they adhered strictly because of the terrain of that environment, that don't travel in the night. And all of them obeyed. And that's why they arrived safely at the orientation camp. And the Borno people are so excited to have the young ones all over the country coming to be with them and also to assist them in the development of the state. So I don't think it's proper, and we don't have that mandate to, on our own, decide that we are not going to send core members to specific states all through the service year. orientation, if there are specific security challenges, yes, we will consult with the government and again relocate the orientation camp to somewhere that is safe. Because for the past 12 years, we've been running Bono orientation camp in Katsina State. But now we have clearance that the security is good, and that's why we are running the orientation camp in this state. I think it's something we all need to look at and pray and help ourselves to ensure that the security of lives and property in Nigeria, all of us must be partaker in it and see how we can get it clean.
Yeah, and also regarding the way they travel, there are several accounts. Some accounts, they say that they left to you, got to Abuja, slept in Abuja, and then continued their journey onward Sokoto via Zamfara. So perhaps we could just have that at the back of our minds in terms of finding out whether or not they were traveling overnight. But I guess we'll just keep our fingers crossed and hope that all ends well. But we have to thank you for coming on this morning. Mr. Eddie Megwa is the Director of Press and Public Relations for the NYSC. Well, some messages have come through from you. Olu Abayomi on this same matter says, NYSC, thank you, Mr. Megwa, NYSC needs to consider limiting the posting of core members to shorter distances, especially within the unsafe regions. It makes no sense traversing the whole length of the country just for youth service.
And then there's this one by, let me see that name, Dixon Eka. Dixon says, I listened to the Minister of Labour and Employment, Simon Lalong, where he's urging NLC to be patient with the government. This is double standard. If it took Mr. President less than 1 hour after swearing in to remove subsidy, why should the Nigerian masses wait for so long to get palliatives and other measures to cushion the effect of subsidy removal? President Tinubu should have waited, resume office, consult stakeholders, including labor leaders, for a master plan on the aftermath of subsidy removal before removing the subsidy. Dixon Eka.
Well, Law Alpha Cross chooses to talk about the PEPC, that's the Presidential Election Petition Court. The ruling from the Presidential Tribunal tomorrow will aim at preserving the democracy in Nigeria by ensuring peace and mutual coexistence on the altar of truth and good conscience.
Well, this one is from Uche Cross, who says, there's this one area I'd like to bring to the fore, and it is the issue of one chance in Abuja. Persons I know have been victims of this dastardly act. I've heard people discuss and unveil their horrific tales, molestation, and even to the point of death of their beloved ones in the hands of these so-called one-chance men and women. Please help me and fellow Nigerians who have fallen victims and even lost their lives to get these evil crimes told. Would this be directed to the FCT Minister or the appropriate stable? Kindly do. It's hereby done. Uche. And that's the program this morning. Thank you for the privilege of being a part of your morning. Have a wonderful and productive day. I'm Ayo Makinde.
Well, thank you for watching. I am Bukola Koka.
And thank you, I'm Neota Igbe.
We'll see you tomorrow. Don't forget, it's going to be a big day, so you need to keep it locked here because we will bring you live images of the Supreme Court decisions. I am Chamberlain, so goodbye.